I still remember the moment I discovered the truth. One quiet Sunday afternoon when the house felt too peaceful to trust. My wife Elena was in the shower humming like everything in her world was perfectly normal. Her phone buzzed on the bed and normally I would never touch it. But that day, something invisible pushed my hand toward it. One swipe, one notification, one message thread, and my entire world rotted from the inside out. There it was. The truth. She wasn't just cheating. She was sleeping with a married man. And not just any married man. Daniel Carter, a respectable-looking family guy who lived 9 houses down. A man whose wife had brought us cookies last Christmas. A man whose children waved at us when they played outside. My heart trembled with a kind of numbness I'd never felt before. The messages were filthy, bold, shameless, full of passion she had never once shown me. She wasn't just cheating. She was invested, alive, glowing for him. And the worst part, she talked about me, insulted me, called me boring, predictable, and too soft. My chest tightened with humiliation so sharp it felt like a knife scraping bone. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I simply put the phone down, walked out of the room, and let the shower water hide her guilt for me. For now. For days I watched, observed, studied every lie she spoke. Every time she went to buy groceries, she was with him at a cheap motel by the highway. Every time she said she needed time to herself, she was in his truck, touching him the way she used to touch me years ago. I became a ghost living inside my own marriage, floating through rooms while my heart decayed. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the knowledge of who she had betrayed me with. Because Daniel wasn't just a cheater, he was a coward. And his family loved him too much to ever suspect what he was doing. And one night, I realized something chilling. His wife deserved to know. His children deserved to know. But more importantly, Elena deserved everything that was coming for her. So I didn't confront my wife. I didn't shout, didn't break things, didn't cry. No, I planned quietly, carefully, with a calmness. So cold it scared even me. My revenge didn't start with anger. It started with strategy. The first step was simple. I contacted Daniel's wife, Melissa. I expected tears, denial, maybe even a breakdown. But what I heard on the phone changed everything. Silence. A long chilling silence followed by a whisper that didn't sound like a broken woman, but a storm preparing to destroy everything in its path. Meet me tomorrow. Bring evidence. Don't tell anyone. Her voice didn't tremble. Mine did. We met in a quiet cafe, and when I handed her the screenshots, her eyes didn't fill with tears. They filled with fire. Melissa didn't scream. She didn't beg. She didn't collapse. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and said a sentence that sent an electric shiver down my spine. They think they're smart. They have no idea who they're dealing with. My whole family is going to handle this. You won't have to lift a finger. I didn't understand what she meant until days later when hell finally arrived. It started on a Thursday. A normal, sunny, cheerful afternoon where kids were riding bikes and neighbors were gardening. Then suddenly, 3 black SUVs rolled onto our street. Silent, slow, deliberate. Melissa's family stepped out like they'd walked out of a courtroom drama. Her brothers, her cousins, her father, all stone-faced, all furious, and all carrying something that looked like controlled, precise rage. They weren't here to talk. They weren't here to fight. They were here to expose. They walked straight to Daniel's house and pounded on the door. When Daniel opened it, wearing that fake smile he always had, Melissa's father held up the printed screenshots and said loudly enough for the entire block to hear, "You cheated on my daughter with the woman 9 houses down. Bring her outside now." Every neighbor froze. Kids stopped playing. Lawnmowers went silent. Curtains parted. The entire neighborhood became an audience to a scandal exploding in real time. Elena, hearing the shouting, ran outside wearing panic like a second skin. Melissa stared at her with a cold, burning disgust, then slapped her so hard the sound echoed across driveways. But it didn't stop there. Melissa's brothers began reading the text messages aloud. Every filthy detail, every insult, every humiliating comment like it was a courtroom prosecution. And people listened, faces twisted in shock, disbelief, horror. My wife covered her face, shaking as the humiliation crushed her like a collapsing building. Then came the twist I never expected. Melissa wasn't just exposing them. She was ending them. In front of everyone, she announced that she had already filed for divorce, frozen their joint accounts, transferred the house into her name, and kicked Daniel out legally. She had spent the past week preparing everything behind the scenes. Daniel's face collapsed in disbelief, turning pale as chalk. My wife tried to run to me, crying, trembling. But I stepped back like she was poison. And then Melissa turned to me. She touched my shoulder, gave me a small nod, and whispered loud enough for the crowd to hear. "You didn't deserve any of this. But she does, and now she's yours to deal with." The entire neighborhood watched as my wife broke into a sobbing, desperate mess, begging me not to leave her. But after weeks of planning, after seeing the truth of who she really was, I felt nothing but icy calm. I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I simply handed her the divorce papers I had already signed. "You destroyed us," I said quietly. "Now watch how I rebuild myself without you." And with the entire street watching, I turned around and walked back home alone but free. Behind me, my wife collapsed on the pavement, screaming my name. Daniel stood silently,